Good evening, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for all of you that are here and joining us for tonight's topic of surviving COVID-19 in the midst of chaos. This is Mind for Wellness' first virtual summit, and I am so excited to have these wonderful people with me. Before I get started, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Miyoshi Dorsey, and I am the CEO and founder of Mind for Wellness. And before I introduce my wonderful influencers, I'm going to start with an introduction. And then after that, we'll introduce everyone that's joining us tonight. But I thank you again because this is such an exciting time and a very important topic to talk about. So, after discussing the pandemic with various people and having personal experiences with the effects of COVID-19, I could no longer remain silent. I decided to dialogue with my colleagues who are all experts in the fields of medicine, law enforcement, and psychotherapy. But before I introduce my speakers, who I affectionately call influencers, I would like to provide you with a brief background regarding the origin of COVID-19. COVID-19 was first identified in December 2019. The strain of coronavirus that causes COVID-19 is called severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, or SARS-CoV-2. Scientists report that COVID-19 probably originated from bat to human infection in Wuhan, China. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on January 30th of 2020, and it was declared a pandemic in March 11th, 2020. So as of November 14th, I have some stats for you, and there are 53.2 million cases that have been confirmed, with more than 1.3 million deaths attributed to COVID-19. Those numbers, I'm sure, have increased by the time of this recording. Also, according to the New England Journal of Medicine, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience domestic violence or intimate partner violence, which can be physical, emotional, sexual, or psychological. It has been termed a pandemic within a pandemic. They reported that although the number of incidents of domestic violence have increased, the number of calls have dropped, despite the increase of the rates of occurrence. This is due to victims not being able to safely connect to services due to being confined to their homes. Child abuse has also increased along with domestic violence, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Child abuse and neglect can have a tremendous impact on lifelong health and well-being. As a result, violence in homes have become unsafe, leading to adverse physical and mental health outcomes, higher risk of chronic disease, substance abuse, depression, PTSD, which is post-traumatic syndrome, and risky sexual behaviors. These victims are at a greater risk of death. Also, the Center for Disease Control, which we call CDC, reports that 43 million women and 38 million men have experienced psychological aggression in their lifetime, which can result also in death. This pandemic is causing economic devastation, disconnection from community resources and support systems, and creating widespread uncertainty and panic. Subsequently, people have experienced stress, worry, anxiety, depression, and thoughts of suicide, and some of them have also carried out the suicide. So this is where we are tonight. We have this pandemic. We have people that are experiencing the worry, the stress, the anxiety, and all these other psychological issues. And tonight we are going to address them. So at this time, I would like to present my influencers. And I will start with one young lady who I met 4 years ago, approximately 4 years ago. And at the time, I was transitioning into her position on the job. And she was so kind to me, so engaging, and allowed me to have a smoother transition by making sure that all of the reports and all of the casework was done in a smooth way so that when I moved into the position, it would be an easy transition. So I appreciate her very much for being in my life. I appreciate her for her encouragement and for being an advocate for youth. At this time, she has returned to our facility some time ago with a new position as a supervisor, and she's still doing even greater work with the youth. So I would like to introduce to you a wonderful person who has been a great influencer, a great impact to our youth of today, and that is none other than Dewana Holloway.
Hi, good
Hi,
evening.
Dewana.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you being here, for taking time. I know that your job, it takes a lot of effort, first of all, to be there, but then also it takes a lot of your personal time. So I appreciate you coming and joining us tonight. But I would like for you to introduce yourself, talk about your credentials, what they mean, and then also talk to us a little bit about what you do on your job.
Okay, very well. So my name is Dwayna Holloway, and I have a master's degree in counseling. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I also have a credential in alcohol and drug treatment. I've worked for LA County since 2006, and in that capacity, I've worked with at-risk youth. And I'm still working with at-risk youth in my current position as a supervisor. It's pretty much my job to just kind of oversee things, but true to who I am, I roll up my sleeves and I get involved because we have a lot of youth that really need our help, our direction, and our guidance. And with this COVID-19 pandemic, on top of everything else that they're dealing with, it's another layer of mental health concern that I believe has been going underdiagnosed or underaddressed. We do the best that we can, but it does have a huge influence on these young people.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, are you finished? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
no. That's kind of just who I am and what I do.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So the next person, I call her my sister in love. I met her approximately 12 years ago?
So, yeah.
Yes, it's been 12 years ago.
Wow.
She and
Yeah.
I both are married to brothers.
Yes.
And I tell you, when I met you, Lashon, I knew immediately we were going to be besties, or I won't say besties, but one of really good friends.
Yes.
But I'll just say that I really respect you. I honor you for the work that you do, and not only the work that you do, but you being a mother, being a wife, and being a great friend to many people. And your presence is definitely well known and appreciated. So at this time, I want to say to you also publicly, thank you so much for encouraging me to be at this point, because you pretty much paved the way. And I was watching you, and you didn't know I was watching you, but
No.
you were very instrumental in getting the courage to be here today. So thank you so much for your impact in my life. So I would like for you to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about, again, your credentials, what you do in your field, and how you impact people.
Wonderful. This is awesome. Thank you. This
You're
is definitely an
welcome.
honor to be here to see the manifestation of your vision and to just, be a part of it. I think it's awesome with amazing influencers as well connected. and you're allowing us space to share. I think a lot of people don't know how to do that, and I just commend you on that. I am Lashon Dorsey. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for over 24 years. I have a master's in nursing with the emphasis of public health. I love nursing. I love people. But I have a passion for community, and majority of my nursing has been in the acute setting. Went from nursing to nursing supervisor to a nursing leader to now a nursing educator. So I love to teach and pour into people at all different levels. And so 2017, I was released to actually create a business. I still work in the acute setting field today, but I also own a business called E3 Fit and Wellness, connected in partnership with my son and his wife. And so we do great things for our community, for our public as it relates to wellness. We are the highest disparity, African American and Hispanic and Indian. And yes, access and awareness is a huge feast in where it's hard for people that look like us to navigate through the wellness. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And so I get to their level on what it is. It's not so much as exercising. We created a system called movement. We just want you to move. We want the circulation going. We know what circulation does for the body, what it does for the brain. It releases the oxygenated blood so you can think, you have mental clarity, you have energy. And so we really shift some names, some words that will get people moving. E3 Fit Wellness, what we do is we create modalities to help community, individuals, and families be the best version of them through different modes. We have a thing called Shed, where it's a 30-day challenge. We get involved with your cooking, your lifestyle, and how you transition into movement and things like that. So that's really a passion of mine, and it's a business, and we love it, and it's growing. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, I'll be off my job and doing that full time, flowing and pouring into the community. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because you're doing something for the community and for the people, and the awareness and the information is so amazing. So I'm excited tonight to be a part of this influencer panel.
Yay. So I'm so glad. Thank you so much for that. And you touched into an area of wellness, and that's what Mind for Wellness, ergo the name wellness, is about. Not only the mind do we focus on, but we also focus on the body and the spirit. Because if you have an unhealthy mind, you're going to have an unhealthy body as well as spirit. So it's a package. They all are infused. You can't have one without the other. If you do have one without the other, it's going to be unstable and it's going to be unhealthy. So with that said, thank you again, both you and Dwayna. I'm sorry, Dwayna. I mispronounced your name, but I know who you are. So last but not least, this influencer, I've been knowing him the longest out of the three wonderful people on this panel tonight. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dunbar, it was 2014, maybe somewhere around there when I first met you.
Probably earlier than that.
Earlier than that? Okay.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
It has been a while. It has been a while. It's been at least 16, 17 years.
Long
but
time.
I'll just say that, when I met you, Dunbar, I knew, just like with Lashon and with Dwayna, I knew that you were this special kind of guy. And then what I mean by that is that you were just so down to earth. And I'll share something with you. When I first arrived at that office, they kept talking about this person who was the president of, we had a committee there that will take care of the different affairs in our office. And they kept saying, oh, he's so awesome. He's this and that. And I had seen you before, but I didn't know it was you they were talking about. And we had the meeting, and then you started talking in the meeting. I said, oh, they're talking about Dunbar. And the reason why I was so surprised is because he's such a humble man. And when he and I began to engage, we would go to each other's cubicle every single day. It was the way we started our morning. And I tell you, this man, he has done some great things that I don't even think he has time to talk about tonight. But I appreciate all the moments when we sat together in our cubicles, the times when you really influenced me as well. You encouraged me. You pointed out the things about me that I really did not see, and I really appreciate that. Also, the many walks that we've had around Santa Monica, and we walked a lot together during lunchtime. But anyways, needless to say, I can go on and on about you, but at this time, I would like for you to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Well, first, thank you, Mimi, for doing this. Like Mr. Sean was saying, as far as Ms. Duana, you are doing the work that is needed more than ever, and it's just a great honor to be a part of what you and what our colleagues are trying to do, because it's such a crucial time with everything that's happening. It's almost like being in the midst of a hurricane, a tornado, a snowstorm, and an earthquake, all rattling at the same time.
I said like that.
And it's just so needed, this work, especially when it comes to our communities of color, underserved and much needed communities. So thank you for this forum. And
oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
My colleagues as well, just being a part of it. I'm just humbled in all of your presence. So I just want to just say that thank you for letting me be a part of my three queens, because I really just being here.
Absolutely.
Just briefly, I just grew up a regular guy. I'm from LA, South Central, born, bred, and raised. Lived here my whole life, and I'm a local boy, son of immigrants, son of illegal immigrants. My parents came here searching for the American dream, and this is my community. And I like to call myself a son of South Central, because this place has always been a place of hope. And I think right now in my lifetime, I think we have reached a depth where I'm just looking around and I just see a sense of worry, concern. And on the flip side, I also see a place of hope.
Okay.
Because I see that we can, like we've always done in the past, gotten over this obstacle. I think as people living in underserved communities, we're used to this being this level of desolation, but we've always overcome. We've always risen up. We've always adapted. But these are just really trying times, so it's just more difficult. Went to local schools, graduated from Cal State in Vegas Hills. I'm a Toro, like
Toro.
And I've worked with like you guys have worked with in law enforcement for about 28 years, and I'm coming to a transition. This is soon to be. My career is almost over in that realm. I also work as a behavioral specialist and as a sociologist. But the most important, I would say, career, job, personal endeavor that I've always undertaken is the most important, and that's as a husband and as a father. So that's my important job. That's how I define myself.
Wonderful.
As a brother, friend, a colleague, but most importantly, as a husband and as a father.
And might I add, and I didn't say this, he has a beautiful wife. Oh, I just love me some Tiffany. And the funny thing is, like, I met Dunbar years ago, but then when I met his wife, I was like, move over, Bacon. She became my new bestie, I love you both. Both of you guys are my sisters, and they're wonderful, wonderful kids. Oh my God, I can go on and on about you guys, but for the sake of time, we're going to move on. But thank you again, Dunbar, for that introduction. So I'm going to get into the topic, and I would like to address this first question to Duana. And I'm going to open it up with this first. According to Medscape, there is an increase in suicidal thoughts and attempts. Anxiety and depression are among the major mental health consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic in youth, according to this new research. So as a licensed clinician, what type of stressors have you observed with your juvenile delinquent population, also with their parents and their families, as it relates to COVID-19?
It's so much going on. So these youth are detained for various reasons, and their lifeline is communication with their families, their visits, their phone calls, also interacting with their peers in the facility. And since COVID hit, we've had to strategically reprogram and redo things how we've been doing them. These poor kids, a lot of them, their visits have been canceled. It's difficult to give them phone calls because you've got to bring them out of their living unit up to an office. So not only have they been detained and they're dealing with all of that, now they're further isolated from their family and in the facility, their peers or friends. So you're seeing a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. You're seeing triggered PTSD symptoms, because think about our inner city kids. They've seen a lot, they've experienced a lot. So this is trauma on top of trauma. When you think that you finally get a call from your mom and you heard she's been to the hospital or she's got a cough going on, immediately going back to this could be life threatening. And I can't even hear. I can't even communicate with her. Now I can't even socialize to take my mind off it and play some basketball or engage in a sport because now we're quarantined in our cottage. So they're restless, they're anxious, they're fearful. All their questions aren't being answered. And let's face it, sometimes staff isn't as compassionate or empathetic, and they're not educated on what COVID-19 is.
Exactly.
We want them to wear masks. We're trying to wear them and model the behavior, but they don't really grasp it because they've been out in the community. So for them, initially, it's been kind of like, you guys are making this up, not as bad as you're making it out. And then when they hear about a staff or they hear about a CBO that came in and they possibly are infected, and we've got a quarantine, then the fear sets in. And these kids have no way to process any of that. And has pulled out. So we don't have as much of a presence there. It's through this. And I listen to those statistics, and what's alarming also is your young adults, 1 in 5 are developing a mental health issue as directly relates to COVID-19.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, substance abuse on the rise, as well as self-interest behavior. So this is a huge mental health crisis.
Thank you so much. And can't be that easy, especially being an adult and having to inform youth, as you said, a lot of them are immature in their thinking, and they don't have that much experience as well. And they also look to adults for safety. So it's kind of difficult in this realm that we in this pandemic to be not only a model, but also to try to make them feel like they're in a safe place, especially when a child is separated from their parents, like in your situation at the facility. And at one time, of course, they weren't able to even visit. So that brought on some even more trauma, some more worry and stress and anxiety. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. And so now we're going to go on to the physical aspects of COVID-19. And this is addressed to our influencer, Miss Lashon. And so I want to say that, all of us have noticed the obvious physical symptoms of experiencing COVID-19, such as fevers, chills, coughing, and shortness of breath, and fatigue, body aches, etc. As a medical expert, please discuss how mental health challenges can further contribute to poor physical health.
Absolutely. Dwayna touched on a lot of the symptoms or the emotions like fear, anger. It's like the five fabulous: fear, anger, stress, worry, and grief, because it's all rolled up into one when you look at it. As far as like Dunbar said, the hurricane, the snow, the storm, we have that all rolled in one. And so fear, because we're afraid, we really don't know too much about COVID. It weakens our kidneys. Anger, and this is scientific fact, anger weakens our liver, and stress weakens our heart. And then worry weakens our stomach. And we know that a nervous stomach, a lot of people talk about that. But when you have worry, and then you have your stress, and then you have anger and fear, all your major organs are being affected. Grief weakens your lungs, your oxygenation, how you pull your good oxygen for your dirty oxygen. You want to clean it every time you breathe, but grief shortens that. You're exhausted, you're tired. And so it really affects your organs specifically, and then directly affects our body as it relates to COVID, how we're dealing with it. From my point of view, in the acute setting, just, in the hospital setting, as far as like Dwayna talked about, you can't have visitors. You can have one, maybe two visitors, and that's it. They're trying to lift it a little bit, but for sure one. So you're not knowing what's going on with your loved one. So you're fearful, you're angry, and you're stressing, and you're worried. So even indirectly, those that are not affected by COVID, you're still under a susceptibility of actually deteriorating your body as it relates to COVID, because you're concerned about your loved one in the hospital. So it does a lot of different things to our body, and not just to say our mindset, but the actual physical body. It does so much. When you're thinking about fear, I'm thinking about anxiety, how it triggers a flight or fight type of reaction, and releases chemicals and hormones that really causes our brain to stay on a high alert. And even when you're in a calm place, your brain is constantly going, and that affects you. That gives you more stress. Your blood pressure goes up. You even, maybe somebody are stress eaters and your diabetes go up. You're certain things you're reaching for just out of feeling, and not fueling your body the proper way, because of stress and worry is so heavy on us as it relates to the disease, how to navigate, because it's so much of the uncertainty that we're dealing with as humanity. A lot of things we like to know what's going on, and a lot of our lives have been structured like that. But in this season, it's not structured. It's not a normal process. This is our new normal. What does it look like? How will I have a baby? What does it look like for my loved one to be in the hospital? Our hospital, we're creating like psychologists on the scene, more than just 2 or 3. Now we're up to 6, because we're noticing indirectly that this is affecting our population. And so we have psychologists there talking. We have increased social workers talking to the visitors that can't come into the hospital, because we want to decrease the stress. We want to decrease the worry as it relates to just some of the formulation that has come from COVID to decrease transmission. And it's a new process. This is still new to a lot of even our CDC people, our WHO people. Things are changing every 10 or 15 minutes. I don't even want to get into the healthcare worker process on how so many people are leave of absence because of fear, and just having proper instrument, PPE, just to take care of our community. It's so many different layers to this. And that's why one of the reasons why I think this is a great conversation to have, because we need to discuss it and talk about it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And so we may have to increase, personally, I decrease my time with my counselor, just because the things that are going on in the world and what you have to interact with. We have to look at all that to stay healthy in mind and in body, because our body will take us where we need to go. So I see all those effects: the worry, the grief, the stress, the fear, and how it affects the body internally and indirectly, those that are in the hospital as well.
Yes. Thank you for that very thorough and wonderful insight, Lashon. And, you know, I was thinking too about us still dealing with this first wave of this pandemic. And now, as we talked about before, now the second wave is coming. And,
Yes.
and we're seeing this all on TV again, not only just in European countries or in other countries around the world, but here in the United States. What do you say to people now that, I mean, how do we brace for this? I mean, I know that we have dealt with this and we're still dealing with this. We're being physically isolated, socially isolated,
Yeah.
mandated to do certain things. It's a lot
It
for us
is.
to deal with.
Yeah.
Does anybody like to comment on that?
Well, one of the things that concerns me the most is our people in general have been cut out of conversations, not included in conversations, and disenfranchised in many areas. And we also there's this big taboo on mental health and getting the assistance that we need. And what I would like to say about that is, if you don't have good mental health, you can't have, as Lashon said, good physical health, and they go hand in hand. If you don't have good physical health, it's going to affect your mental health. We are comprehensive beings. There's so many parts of us, and they need to all be in harmony and balance. So I think it's very important that we start looking at our finances, we start looking at our mental, our spirituality, and our physical health, and do what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy, because this is a disease that is still a little bit obscure. We don't know everything about it. There's so much anxiety about this new disease and what could happen, what might happen, and this will undoubtedly bring about overwhelming, strong emotions that affect your mental well-being and your physical. And you've got to get help. You've got to ask for help.
Absolutely. That's the key.
Can I
Go
add
ahead,
just a
go
little
ahead,
bit?
LaShawn.
So with the twindemic, one of the things that I really would encourage people is, like, you can't really, it's a saying that, you know, build your immunity up. Really fortify your immunity. This is the physical. This is who you are. Fortify your immunity by eating correctly, by taking your vitamins, by hydrating your body. Everything in our system is fluid based, from the blood to what our organs float in. We need the hydration of water. Start walking, moving. It's colder outside, so layer up and move around. Move in your home. These are some of the things that help you mentally, but also physically as well, to get that immunity, because what we're dealing with is viruses that attack the immune system. It attacks your defense system that defends out the bacteria, the virus, the fungus. So if it's already at a weakened state and you have the twindemic, the flu and COVID hitting it, then that's a way of going way down. But if you already at a level where your immunity's built up, you're taking elderberry, you're doing your vitamins, you got your B12s on board, you hydrating, and you're keeping your mind on things above. I mean, there's some things that's going to affect you differently. You're going to be affected and impacted by it, but it's going to be in a different way. We want you to be the best version of you. So increase your immunity as well.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are very great points that you guys made. Now I would like to thank you again. I'd like to address Dunbar and ask him a question about this belief bias, is what I call it, this freedom versus regulation. So despite the statistics of millions of people contracting the virus and millions of others dying from it, why do you believe that certain people are biased to ignore the risks of the pandemic? Dunbar.
Well, that's a great question. And as I was listening to Ms. Lashon and Ms. Duena and speaking on their topics, you hear this sense of basically, like Ms. Duena was saying, about this is new. This is new, uncharted territory with this disease. This disease is something that we haven't seen, because the last time we saw something that was similar was in 1918 with the Spanish flu pandemic. And if you look at some of those pictures that were from 1918, you saw people walking around with masks. And ironically, it was President Woodrow Wilson. He was president then, and he was similar. He had a similar intellect as the person who occupies the White House now. And we're saying that the disease wasn't as bad as it was. And ironically, Woodrow Wilson got Spanish flu. He and sort of like how this current administration is the same way with COVID. Didn't take it serious. Basically wanted everyone to go about their business. He believed that this was not an epidemic, but if people panicked, it would wreck the economy. So it was almost a matter of choosing profits over people, because
Absolutely.
his goal was to carry on. Hey, whatever happens, happens. And it's the same thing now that we're seeing over 100 years later, where we would think that we would learn from our past mistakes. I think Dr. King said, those who do not learn from their past are doomed to repeat it.
That's right.
And it seems that we're falling into the same patterns. And one thing with people, as a sociologist, I study patterns of human behavior. And like Ms. Duana she studies the mind and the mental health, and Ms. Lashon studies the physical health. As a sociologist, we study patterns of behavior, what we do as a society. And back to your question of why some people believe this is real and why others don't. I was reading an article, and it was dealing with, and I think Ms. Lashon might have heard about this, where it was a nurse who basically was hearing her patients who were at their deathbed with COVID, and she was trying to say she knew they were dying because it was showing that they were slipping away. And she was trying to have them, do you want to call a relative? Do you want to call a family? And these people still refused to accept that they were dying from COVID. Some said no, they weren't dying from COVID. They may be dying from lung cancer, they may die from the flu, but they still didn't believe that they had COVID because they believed that COVID wasn't real. And these are people who are dying and ended up dying from the disease. And even then, they could not accept the fact that they were dying from a disease because we've been told, and it starts at the top, that this isn't real. Let's not take this serious. It's like the flu. Just relax. Go about your business. And unfortunately, we see people who get the disease and they still say it's not a big deal. Right. And unfortunately, it falls along sometimes political lines. You have people who are supportive of this administration, who believe that mask is a sign of weakness, and you have others who believe masks are a sign of patriotism, because, studies have shown, even though this is a new disease, that wearing a mask works because you're protecting yourself and you're protecting everyone else. However, on the other side, you hear that no, mask means that you're infringing on my personal rights, and my personal rights outweigh your safety. And that's where we're at as a society. So even though we're the United States of America, we're almost like 50 little countries, and everyone is playing by their own rules. And unfortunately, this disease doesn't play by the rules. This disease doesn't say, okay, that's a blue state or that's a red state, that's a liberal, that's a conservative, so I'm going to attack them and I'm going to leave them alone. It doesn't work that way. This is an equal opportunity disease that's attacking everyone.
Yes. Very good point. Very good point. And, as you were speaking, I was thinking also about, and I think we talked about this before, these youth especially now are gathering for all these different reasons. I mean, the other day I was going down the street and I saw this group of people. I kid you not, it may have been about 100 or more, just hanging out on the boulevard. And I would say, and these are older people actually, that should know better and should be modeling better behavior and should be social distancing. However, I would say maybe 50% of them did not have masks on. And then you also have the younger population, getting to them, where they're getting together and some of them are having parties without masks and even challenging and betting on the fact that you will be the first one. If you're the first one to contract COVID-19, then you win this pot of money. Like, who does that? So these are the kind of things, I mean, you think that there are things that are made up, but no, people are actually doing this. And so people have to be made aware of how serious it is. I don't know how much more serious it can be when every day you turn on the news, you're hearing about all these cases that are increasing. All of these people are still dying. People are still dying from this virus. And this, we're just seeing the beginning of it. This is not even the peak of this twindemic. So thank you again for that piece on that, Dunbar.
You know what,
But I
if I
like
may,
to,
may I highlight one real quick in what you were saying about
sure,
people dying? It's ironic too that we see in the news that people are dying, but unfortunately, when it comes to this disease, it's the people who are dying are most vulnerable, and that is our very old and those who are people of color. It's hitting those people of color the hardest, people who are economically based, who are not as privileged as others.
Yeah.
And we heard from the beginning that, oh, if you're young, you have nothing to worry about. And if you're old, you're on your way out. And
right.
I think society has taken that, you know, in American society, I think we're one of the few societies where we don't have the same love, for lack of a better word, for elderly population as other countries. In other countries, the older you are, the more respected you are in the society, the more protected you must be. In the United States, it's a little different because we do with our old people, we kind of put them away. We put them aside. We send them these places to live, which are convalescent homes. We move them in a different area because, you know, sometimes parents don't want to be bothered with their parent. And this population is not protected. We don't protect those who are the most vulnerable, and that is our very old or our very young, not very young, but are those who are not of economic means. I think Ms. Duana said it earlier, where a society is judged on how we treat our older or our most vulnerable. And we've seen time and time again in this country, we have failed in that regard.
Yes, yes. It's a very sad state of affairs, but you would think that in a pandemic like this, that people will be more empathetic, more sympathetic to those categories of people. But people are unfortunately selfless beings. There are some people, obviously, that are out there that are advocates, and these first responders, I say hats off to you. Oh, I'm considered a first responder of sorts. But I tell you, those that actually are on the front lines, like you, Lashon, and you, Duana. Ooh, I was going to say it again. Please forgive me. You, Duana, you know, being in those positions and not knowing. I mean, you go to work and you come home and you have no idea that the person that you come into contact may or may not be infected, and they can possibly infect you as well. So that in itself is another set of stressors. So I just want to touch on some things that we talked about, the different components of the worry and the stress and the anxiety. But I want to talk a little bit more about how we can better cope with COVID-19. And so these are just some things that I want to point out. But before I go there, let me say this about grief and loss. So this is a question actually for any one of you to answer. So we know that grief is a normal response to loss during or after a disaster or any other traumatic event. Because of COVID-19, you might be unable to be with a loved one, like Lashon was talking about, when they die, or unable to mourn someone's death in person with friends and family. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I have a personal experience. So actually is one of my first cousins who she and her husband tested positive for COVID. They both went to the hospital. She left, he remained, and he died. She is so devastated. They have been married for over 30 years, best friends. She said the last thing she said to him was, "I love you and can't wait till you come home." At that point, she could not see him after that. She didn't see him, of course, until after he passed away. But, you know, these are the kind of stories you're hearing. Families that are losing entire families. LaShawn, you might want to unmute yourself. I sound like you're saying something.
No, I was just like, absolutely. I'm agreeing.
Oh,
with you.
okay.
Like, yes.
Okay. And so I can go on and on about the stories I've heard and even a couple more personal encounters that I have had. But I would like to ask each one of you, if or whoever would like to answer this, what would you say to someone who has lost someone during the pandemic?
You know, it's so interesting when you talk about loss and death, and I have personal tragedy in my own life, and someone told me that going to a cemetery, that's for the living. We need to be able to put things in proper perspective so that we can grieve and move on. What is so unfortunate about COVID-19 is it's left hanging in the air. How to process that? What's tangible about that? When you say, I love you, I'll see you when you get out, or when you come home, and you never come home, and you don't see a body, your mind has a way of playing tricks on you.
Yes.
And it's exacerbating any kind of mental health issue.
Absolutely.
And go through that grief and loss and never getting to the end, because you keep going back to different stages, because it's unbelievable. It's totally unbelievable. So I think we have to be kinder to each other and more humane. I think we need to reach out in safe ways if we can, and try to say things encouraging. I think we need to go back to community. I remember when someone passed away, everyone in the neighborhood rotated and brought boxes of food, made sure you had clothing. In, if you need anything, let me know. They sent cards. Someone was constantly reaching out, so you didn't go into yourself, be an introvert and be in loneliness and isolation. You constantly had someone just tapping in and checking to make sure you're okay.
Yes, yes. I thank you for that, because it just brought up something in my mind. In our neighborhood, we have, it's not called Neighborhood Watch, but it's a neighborhood app. And so anyone in the neighborhood could go on this app, and if they have a request, like if they're elderly, they'll say, you know, I'm elderly, I have nobody, I have no family, I need to go to the grocery store. People connect with them and say, you know, inbox me, I'll come pick you up, or drop off some groceries, just tell me what you need. And I just think that's just so wonderful to see that people are still caring in that way. And you're right. You know, when we have people that are even when they're mourning, a lot of times people don't want to eat. They don't want to shower. They don't want to talk to people. They withdraw, they isolate, and that's not healthy. So, you know, even if it's just a text saying, just thinking about you, good morning, it means a lot to them. A lot of times we don't know what to say when someone has lost someone. What I do is when I call them, I'm just a listening ear and allow them just to vent. Oh, you were going to say something, Duana?
I was just going to say, most people are extremely uncomfortable with silence. It's okay. Being in your presence, sitting there, you might just sit there and watch them.
Yes.
On the phone and listen to them breathe. It's okay if you don't know what to say and they don't know what to say. If they've picked up the phone, at least they know that you're there and you're supporting them. At some point, maybe the dialogue will start, but don't worry about the distance or the uncomfortability about the silence. Just show up, keep showing up.
That's it.
You know,
Absolutely.
there's this thing that we talk about in depression. It's that, you know, you're depressed. You lost your job, your dog died, whatever happened. And you kind of take a step back and you do a little less. The less you do, the more depressed you feel. And then then you do even less. And it's called this downward spiral kind of thing. So when that stuff happens, you have to do a little so it gains momentum, which is called the upward spiral. You do a little, you could go out and wash your car. You didn't feel like it. You washed your car. You're like, my God, my car looks great. Now I think I'll clean out the garage. You start taking on more. So do a little, it becomes a lot.
Yes.
Do nothing, You do a little of nothing and it becomes absolutely nothing.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely. Great point. Thank you for that.
I love it. I love it.
Dunbar, it looks like you were going to say something.
No, I was going to just basically chime in real quick too with what Dwayne was saying, because as people, we are social beings, and in COVID, we can't nothing like this is the new normal. So if we go and bury a loved one, we can't even receive or give an embrace, because that is the time that you're hurting the most. So we can't be physical. We can't hold hands. We can't touch. We can't embrace. We can't wipe away tears. So it is a difficult time because nothing is normal. Nothing is sacred, even when it comes to honoring a life. And we're just going to have to, as a solution, is we're just going to, and I like what Ms. Dwayne was saying, just be there. We can't be there physically, but through technology, through a phone call, through a Zoom, through a call, just be there. We're not there physically, but we're still here emotionally, spiritually. We just have to just be present and just let the person know that although I can't give you that hug, I just want you to wrap your arms around yourself and let you know that that's me giving you that embrace.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have to just think of and be creative of how we're going to continue that physical well-being for each other without being there physically.
Yeah.
And that's the rub. That's how we're just going to have to figure new ways, because I think Mr. Shine was saying this is the new normal, because even though a vaccine, they say, is on the horizon, it takes time. In our community, we're at the very least we are show a little speculation. At the very most, we show a little worry, because when it comes to vaccines and vaccinations, particularly in communities of color,
You better teach it.
Yeah, we are a little worried. I mean, you have, and statistics show that. I mean, you have the Tuskegee experiment that happened, and other things that have happened that have made others in our community a little worrisome when it comes to vaccines.
Definitely.
That's a good point.
Yes. And honestly, with the vaccine, my desire is not to take it for at least 5 to 6 years, because I'm telling no, because they're processing through and quickly, they're doing things quickly, and it really takes almost 2 years for a good vaccine, and you're still behind time as it relates to the virus, because that's how the flu is. It's a year behind, and so that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother bubble for you to even attack. But I love what Dwayna and Dunbar are saying. I'll just speak on it real quickly. It's really creative on how we interact with humanity in this season. And I think it's going to cause a lot of us to get out of our structured places, what we're so used to doing. I know for me, it did that way for me. It's like you do things, I call you on Saturday, I do this with you on Monday. It shifted that whole thing out. And it's totally different on how, from grieving to just interacting with people, it's like a Zoom, a text. It's more, I'm learning to be more intimate with a cold technology. And that really takes time, and it takes effort. It takes your mentality engaging into it, and not just you haphazardly flowing in it. It really shifts you in a different way. And I just believe that that's one of the things, as a human, I'm not just a robot anymore in some areas, just doing things mechanically. Now it's really intentionally, because I don't see my mom, 3 or 4 times a week. I see her once a week because she's still trying to be secluded, and I need to be really mindful of her age and then her comorbidities as well. So when I get that 1 or 2 time interaction, whether it's through Zoom or a phone call, it's more intentional versus just, hey mom, how you doing? So I think it's broadening us up in a respect of connecting, and being like Dwayna said, more intentional at a community-based, family, and then individual. So it's challenging us in a whole nother way as relates to how we interact with each other. It really is.
Very good. Like that. That's so true. Anybody else would like to talk about that?
Well, I
Okay.
just
Go ahead.
hope
Go ahead.
folks help with technology. Some of us are technologically challenged, and I can also barrier for our seniors. I mean,
Yeah,
my
there it is.
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
text.
Yeah. Speaking of which, oh, I thought we lost you for a minute.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we'll have a a video or a live feed on that, on technology.
Yes.
I think
That'd be good.
that's a good point because my
Yeah.
mother, she turned 80 this year,
Mm.
and our
Bravo.
family has always been very traditional, and I'm talking about since I can remember. We were together for every
Yeah.
single holiday.
Yeah.
And when my mom was here, and she lives in Alabama now, when she was in California, lived here, we would go to her home and we would just do it up. And
Yeah.
so when she moved to Alabama, guess what? We flew out there. But now with all the travel restrictions and everything, now we have to resort to Zooming or to, FaceTiming, what have
Yeah.
you. So it's like, how do we teach her that from her being there? So that was an interesting process. My
That's
niece,
good
God
though.
bless her. My
Yeah.
niece went to her house and then, set everything up on the tablet. And it's just
Mhm.
interesting to see her interact. I can tell you a story, but if she's watching this, I'm not going to say this because I don't want her to be embarrassed. But I'm just so glad that she is catching up with technology.
Yes.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. I know
Yes.
we had to get my mom a new laptop because she was using my sister's old one, and she just was like, she'd be on live and the thing would fall down and she'd just be talking. I'd be like, Mom, we hear you. Come on now. So she'd be just doing it. So we had to get her a new laptop and show her the functionality at 70, 71.
Yeah.
I mean, they're learning. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great great observation that we need to help our seniors, because I definitely have the young people helping me because I'm new to this too. I'd be like, what
Right.
is this? Zoom what? You got the stream yard? I mean, come on.
Right. One stream and everything else.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yes.
Good point.
Yes. Maybe we'll have Dwayne doing a Zoom on that, huh?
Oh, goodness. I need help myself.
Oh.
We
Okay,
all
so
do.
we're gonna close this out with some coping skills, if you will.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so I'm gonna talk a little bit about, and I focus on the mind always because that's what Mindful Wellness is about.
Yeah.
Healing of the
Mhm.
mind, first and
Mhm.
foremost. So we're gonna be kind to your mind, okay?
Yes. I
So
like that.
one aspect of it, and these are just some basic pointers, and if you guys know of others, please chime in. But this one is to take slow, deep breaths. This is when you're feeling anxious, when you're worried, and you take slow, deep breaths and stretching, which LaShawn knows that
Yes.
helps with the bodily functions, all of that. I don't know how to describe it, but she could describe it better than me. Or you can meditate. And people say, well, how do you meditate? Some people meditate by listening to music and taking that quiet time. Some people meditate by reading the Word of God, which is the spiritual aspect of the mindful wellness. And also, you observe how you are feeling when you're doing this and what you are thinking, but without judgment. That's difficult for us because we usually typically look at what we're doing and what we have done, and then being very difficult and hard on ourselves, critical on ourselves. So instead of responding or reacting to those thoughts or feelings, note them. And then what? Let go. Let them go.
Mhm.
So the
Love
next one is to take breaks from upsetting content. Now, with the age of technology, what we're talking about, and everything being on the news, we're always watching TV. And the news isn't always the greatest avenue to look at, especially during these times. So you
Right.
take a break from that and make time to unwind. Now, some
Yes.
people say, well, I like to unwind by drinking wine, or, okay, well, we want you to do some healthy unwinding where it's not excessive and where it's going to hurt you.
Mhm.
Try relaxation techniques and listen to music. I
Mhm.
love music. So whatever your genre of music is that calms you, they even have the Calm app that you can listen to
Mhm.
that has a white noise and it has the running water and raindrops or whatever it is that you can do. And you can get those apps for free as well.
Mhm.
Try to do some other activities that you enjoy. It could be a favorite hobby. If you like sewing, some people say that's really relaxing when I knit or when I color or when I fix things. So whatever that thing is that you enjoy doing.
Mhm.
The next one's to take care of your body. Now, LaShawn and all of us have really touched on this.
Yeah.
Exercise regularly. How do I do that?
Yes.
I'm in the house all the time. Okay, lay on the ground, lift your legs up, or do some jumping jacks, or do some stretches or whatever it is. There's always some kind of way that you can exercise.
Mhm.
Even one session of moderate to vigorous physical activity are beneficial. So
Mhm.
just moving, as we were talking about, Michelle Obama had that movement, move your body. And I thought that was wonderful because
Mhm.
that brought a lot of people into doing things that they normally did not do. And then the next one is to reach out and stay connected. And I think Dwayne had touched on that as well. Talk with people you trust
Yes.
about your
Yes.
concerns and how you are feeling. We got to talk about it. Keeping it inside, it does nothing for us.
Mhm.
So you check in with your loved ones often. And we were talking about that, like our moms who may be in another state or people who live in a totally different city or across the country.
Yeah.
And it can help you and your loved ones feel less lonely and
Yeah.
isolated. Because if you're a person that lives by yourself, it can be very lonely. And you feel
Yeah.
like I'm in this alone. I don't have a husband. I don't have children. It's just me. And
Mhm.
I can understand and see why when I talk to some people, they say they feel depressed. They feel
Yeah.
like nobody cares about them. So just reaching out, calling that person, if they come to your mind, hey, I was just thinking about you.
Yeah.
Just want to tell you that I miss you. Look forward to seeing you too when all this is over. It could be
Yeah.
something just as basic as that. And then finally, this is really important to seek help if you're overwhelmed or unsafe, excuse me, overwhelmed with these feelings of worry, these feelings of stress, depression, thoughts of suicide, especially. You want to make sure that you get connected to someone. If you or someone you care about are feeling overwhelmed with emotions like sadness, depression, or anxiety, or feel like you want to harm yourself or others, you must seek professional help. If you have a private insurance, contact your um, general physician. They will refer you out to a professional. If you live in the LA area, in the LA County area, dial 211, and then they'll provide you information. They will ask you information that you have to provide so that you can seek the information that way. And then also, of course, Google it. Just say professional in my area, therapist in the area, or something like that. If distress impacts activities of your daily life for several days or weeks, you can also talk to a clergy person, your pastor, or someone you know who's an evangelist or a minister, a counselor, or again, a healthcare provider.
Mhm.
So these are just a few of the ways to cope with it. Do you guys have anything that you'd like to add?
I have
Uh,
two, but
I'm
go.
sorry.
I have two. I have two. One
Okay.
one is I love journaling. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things of journal. You need to write, get it out of you, get it off of you. Don't worry about the grammar, the punctuation, just get it out of you. Journaling is such, I know it saved my life. I've been journaling since 1993, and it just
Absolutely.
helps fuel and release and receive vision. Creatives are rising in this season, so figure out
Right.
a different format and a
Yeah.
road pathway for you. And number two, to connect with people. I just thought about this when you said it. I got this from my niece Marquita, and this is a creative way that I reach out to people. I have a jar for family, and then I have a jar for nieces and nephews, a jar for family, sisters, brothers, and uncle. So I shake it up, and every week I pull out a name. And so for that week,
Oh,
that is the name that I'm
I like
focusing in
that.
on. So I DM them in the Facebook, I text them, I email them, and then by the end of the week, I'll do a phone call. And this has really been
Oh,
keeping connection in a creative, fun way, because it gets overwhelming because we have, Miyoshi, we have a very large family.
yes.
And so our husbands come
That's
from
awesome.
11 kids, and then I have
Oh,
my
bless.
side of the family, and then their
Yes.
kids. And so I got this from Marquita. She did this, and so I decided to do this. And so I've been doing this for about 3.5 weeks now, and it's really creative and exciting. It keeps the momentum going to reach out for family and friends. You can make different jars. So I would just say,
Yes.
be creative in our reach. That would be
Yes.
the two things
Yes.
I would give.
That's a great idea. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that one. I
Yeah.
might steal that one, sister.
That's why it's out there. Come on, take it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
shake it up, shake it up. Anybody else would like to add or have some final comments before we close?
Real quick, I wanted to add, like what you were saying, Yoshi, about 211, to those who are out there and who are listening. Also, you can look into the suicide hotline. That number is
Thank you.
1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-TALK. TALK. And the good thing with the suicide prevention hotline is that if you don't feel comfortable talking, you could also text. So you can get a crisis counselor to actually text and engage that
Good.
way.
That's good.
So if you don't have to, it's anonymous. You don't have to feel that someone is judging, because trust and believe, you are not the only person that is feeling this. And it's okay to just reach out and talk, because there's always somebody that's going to listen, not judge you, not persecute you, not point the finger, just listen.
Mhm.
So, just talk.
That's
Even
good.
if you know, just listen, and just it will be there and listen to you. So just please, just reach out.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. And to add to that, I'm going to post on my Facebook page, my business page, some other websites that you can go to, and also some resources that you can use. So to
Nice.
anyone out there. Dwayne, I think you had something that you wanted to say as well.
I just want to encourage people that if you need some help, it's okay. Please ask for it. And if you don't need help, there's someone out there that needs your help. So
Yeah.
reach out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's
Any
good
other last words, LaShawn?
That's good stuff. I just think that this was amazing, and I love what Dwayna said. She was like, if you don't need no help, somebody needs you.
Yeah.
And get to the point to where, because what I've done, and in our culture, the stigmatism of getting a counselor and a therapist is rough. Get it before you start feeling those things. We're in a chaotic environment, and you got so much going on. You have different roles and hats. It's okay to reach out to someone that can help you through, or shed some light, or shed things off of us. And so I'm encouraging people, just hook up with a therapist. It's okay whether you use them every month or every 2 months. Hook up with them, because what we're going through is abnormal, and we've got to move and flow as humanity in a new normal. That takes the psychological flip of the switch, and sometimes we need help in maintaining that. You can initiate it, but maintaining that is really what we're looking for. I've enjoyed the conversation. It's been amazing.
Yes, thank you. I have too. And I just want to say to each one of you, oh my gosh, I mean, I don't even have the words to say. Man, this is just so amazing. I am so proud of each one of you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I've got some gifts for you too that I'm going to be sending your way. But besides that, I just, honestly and sincerely want to say, I appreciate you, each one of you. You're not only my colleagues, but you're my friends. And I really believe that us collaborating tonight is definitely going to affect someone, if not one, hopefully many. And looking forward to the second annual virtual summit. So, hey, be prepared, okay?
It's coming.
Thanks again so much. And I want to end this with, to the viewers that if there's any information, which it will be on the screen, contact information for Mindful Wellness, which was my personal business telephone number, email address. You can also DM me at Facebook. All of my information is there. If you have further questions, if you want to get in contact with any of the influencers tonight. So again, thank you to all of you that have chimed in, that are interested in this topic. I ask that you would share it, not
Yes.
only on Facebook, but also YouTube or any of your other social media platforms. Wishing you all be safe.
Yes.
And take care, and God bless you.
Thank you for having me. All
Good
right.
night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right, see you guys later. You gotta be safe.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.